Okay. It's, I'll give you, 40 or 50 seconds of epidemic sound, instrumental. The royalty-free music background I use. It's kind of like my little theme song. When you go into the dentist and you're always hearing the same music all the time through the PA, well, epidemic is the sound that we deliver. There we go. Hopefully I have those sound levels set properly. I like to have the epidemic in the background so that when I take a breath, at least you hear, some energetic music in the background. Here it is, March 2nd. It's Saturday, March 2nd. So let's see, 78 degrees outside. It's 66.6 in this apartment. In this little studio here, it's 66 degrees. I think we need to get all of it. Yeah, Marilyn is definitely into trying to clean up my little rat's nest here. I got boxes of stuff all over the place. I got pistolas. Here's a little gem. You see what this is? Oops. This is a real. If you can see it. I'm trying to get the autofocus to go on it. Maybe if I cover it up with some. There we go. Silencer Co. This is a real. As you can see all the way through there. Yeah, I can see all the way. It's a real silencer. You screw it on. I have what is known as a piston, which goes inside of here. I read that in the. I have the piston. I bought this like over a year ago, and it's been sitting in Palm Beach Tactical is where I had it sent. These devices that require background checks and all that. You got to go through a licensed dealer that's online with the Fed for checking your background. And now when you get the silencer, they check your background to the point of ad nauseum. And here's my application for tax paid transfer and registration of firearm. Well, it's actually let's see, a silencer. There's the stamp superimposed on the application. It's an electronic stamp, but it looks like a stamp. I need to. This is, a not so good black and white version. I have to figure out. They're supposed to send me a link to this, so I can figure out how to get that. Get a clean PDF file of that, so I can put it in my electronic records in case I happen to have it wrapped up in my car, and some police guy says, "Aha, what's this?" I mean, when you go to a range, if your gun happens to have a threaded barrel, a 1/2 inch by 28 threaded barrel, you screw that silencer on the front of it, and when you shoot, it just don't quite have that big pop. Now, you're supposed to wear earmuffs, like I got. They're sound deadening earphones, headphones, you know, so you don't damage your ears. In a firing range, the sound is enclosed. Anyway, so we'll have to, now that I have that final toy. It's amazing. Boys and their toys. There we go. So, old Fannie Willis. Fonnie. How's your fanny, Fonnie? How's your Fonnie, Fonnie? Oh boy. She and her team of state officials are trying to fight for Fonnie Willis's to remain on the prosecution team in the former President Donald Trump's Georgia election interference case, which is bupkis. Trump didn't do anything to interfere with any election. He was just questioning, and he's, as the President of the United States, he was President of the United States until he was not President, and he was challenging the vote counting practices in certain counties, where they had pictures, videos of people, taking ballots, out of, handbags and putting them in the voting, thingies that are set up all around the county. And all of a sudden the vote started to change from for Trump to against Trump. So he was challenging the way, the crooked voting practices. So Georgia turns around. This district attorney, who may not be a district attorney for long, she's, the Trump defense team in their final closing arguments pretty much shredded I think her chances of staying on that case. I just don't think that's possible anymore because, she lied to the court. She said that she was not romantically engaged with, I'm trying to find the picture. I don't have a picture of them huggy-buggy, but I have a picture of the two of them. So at least you could see, a lot of news. I get these, so she's saying, I am not on trial here. Even though you're trying to make me on trial here, you're on trial, not me. Well, bupkis. Because she lied on the form that's submitted to the court, which the judge reads, and he bases his, how about that? This guy's pretty cool, dude. And they know they're on camera, so they, I don't know I don't think he plays up to the camera, but there's one. There's Jimmy with a cigar in his hand. Well, no more of that for Jimmy. I'm just breezing through these. All right. Anyway, Fannie Willis is, I think, her days are numbered. She's going to get yanked off her whole office. Because, when you lie on a federal form, it's a disclosure form. You have a checklist. You fill out information about, what's going on and how did you hire this guy and why did you hire this guy and that kind of stuff. And she lied on the form. And the other guy lied on the form too. So they lied similarly. Oh boy, only in Georgia. And then, one of the guys said, "Oh, they're tight." And then, the defense team, the Trump's team had him on the stand. And you talk about a guy that was sweating bullets. Well, I don't recall this, and I don't recall that. I don't recall that. It's like the guy is either lying through his teeth or he's dumber than a stump. He's an attorney. Now, he got thrown out of a law firm for some reason. He probably did something unethical. And, he got thrown out of a law firm. And he was, he had witness testimony that he's basically saying, oh yeah, they were hot and heavy a lot longer than November. A year ago, November. Yep. Well, that was the trigger date of when she hired this guy. And the theory is, which is terrible, and she basically hired her boyfriend. I mean, this is the Trump team's theory. And the evidence the state presented and the defense team presented. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a regular. I'm like a country guy down here in South Florida. Not very country, but, I'm out in the weeds here, and I'm not an attorney. I'm not trained. I'm a scientist. I've been trained as a scientist, actually, even though I was a commercial banker most of my life. That makes no sense. I know. The line to stardom is not a straight line up. Darn it. Anyway. So, in listening to this witness testimony, and the theory of the case by the Trump team is that they were lovers. That's not in dispute. That she hired her boyfriend, who's an attorney. He's never practiced. He's never prosecuted a case like a former president with election fraud and all that stuff. I mean, he's never done that. He's an ambulance chaser. Helping with speeding tickets. This guy's never done anything like this. So she overpaid him $100 an hour more than the highest other attorney working for the state. Excuse me, I had to have a little sip of tea to wet my whistle. I have a little hot tea in this container. I have loose tea. I have a tea strainer. I put it in my Keurig with no cartridge in it. And then I push the button like I'm going to fill up a 16-ounce cup. And then the water dribbles out. It goes right into my tea strainer, which then goes into this container. And then I have to open it up the top and close it back up again and select 6 ounces and do it again so I can fill this thing up. And then I let it sit for 5 minutes so the tea will steep. That's so the hot water will infuse itself in the loose tea. It's not tea bag, it's loose tea. I scoop it, 2 scoops. Because that's a 24-ounce container. So I use 2 scoops. Now when I make iced tea for Maryland, I use 2 scoops in like 50 ounces of water. Because it's iced tea, it's a little different. Hot tea is a little different, a little stronger. Anyway, the theory of the case is she overpaid her boyfriend $100 an hour more than the other highest paid state official. You know, that's an attorney working for the state. $100 over the highest paid other, you know. That's, you know, well, that extra money made him flush to go then take her on lavish trips. And they took 6 expensive trips, you know, cruises, all kinds of stuff. 6 trips in 5 months. How about that? Now, if they're all so busy doing whatever they're doing, you know, with this Trump case, did they really have time? Oh, and I'm sure they brought their law papers with them on the trips. Yeah. I don't believe it. I think they were undercover. What do you think? Undercover attorneys. I think they were under the covers. I don't think they were undercover. Oh, God. So they thought no one would notice. I mean, they're basically sucking money out of the Fulton County and the state of Georgia to finance their lavish vacations and travel things, and she ends up benefiting from the trips that she's overpaying her boyfriend, and he was on the trips with her. Really? I mean, are you that stupid? Or do you think everybody else is that stupid that they wouldn't notice? 6 trips in 5 months? You know, the office has got to be... Can you imagine the office chatter in Fulton County? Oh, my God. Well, they have eyewitnesses that they had a relationship way before. Yeah, they're trying to pretend... Oh, no, I didn't really notice this guy until I was ready to, get this case going. And then, we checked his credentials. And since he hasn't ever tried anything like this, he's perfectly qualified. I mean, really. He's not qualified to do this. And she's not qualified to be district attorney. You know, to pull that kind of a trick over Judge Scott McAfee, who is really, I clipped a little, McAfee signaled to Trump's attorneys that he may not need any more evidence to make a decision on whether or not to disqualify Willis from the case. So that's that's a little bit of a signal like, hey guys, don't worry about it. You give me all the evidence I need. It's in my court now. I need to decide and write it up and submit it to the court. And I'll do that within 2 weeks. Trump and his co-defendants in the Fulton County case have pushed to have the district attorney and her whole office removed from the prosecution over misconduct allegations stemming from her romantic relationship with the special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, who is undercover, or under the covers, as it may be. So, Scott McAfee has got his hands full because he's got to, the whole nation, the whole world is focused on this. And I have a feeling that Fani Willis's district attorney job is out the window and it may be challenged. You can't lie to a court. You're a lawyer. You go through, 4 years of law school, and then you're a practicing attorney, and then you get elected to district district attorney, which is a serious managerial road. You're managing a whole bunch of other attorneys. You're the district attorney. I guess in Georgia it's county by county. So she manages all the state attorneys in Fulton County. And she's lying to the court, and she's supposed to officiate over a bunch of other, the DA title has got to get ripped away. Now it's elected, so I don't know how that happens. And I'm sure the judge is trying to figure that out. She could be recalled. He could say resign, or I'm presenting a case to have your license removed from the bar of the Georgia. You're part of the Florida bar. Well, there you're on the Georgia bar. And it's an organization that allows you to practice in that jurisdiction, in the state of Georgia. Well, if you're a liar and a cheat, and you lied to the court, you don't deserve to be on the Georgia bar. So she might lose her law license, so to speak. Yeah. All these guys, if they get caught, Obama had to surrender his Harvard license because he, got into a fraud conflict. Michelle Obama lost her law license, also from Harvard, for committing insurance fraud. I saw the ticket. I didn't, I have it in one of my 83,000 pictures. I have to, go through them and see where that is. But I know both of them lost their law license. Jeez. Well, I have a feeling Fani Willis and Wade are both going to be, removed from the court system. You can't, you just can't, as a matter of deterrence. I mean, if you don't do something with this televised terrible misconduct, but, and then they put on these cases like they're holier than thou. That's pretty bad. So that's my 24-minute interpretation on what's going on with the Fani Willis situation. And of course, that's like a case within a case. So while they're going all over this, the Donald Trump case, the state of Georgia versus John Trump, in the Fulton County Courthouse, and there's 17 other co-defendants, and some of them have pleaded guilty to certain things. They're going to wish they didn't do that. I guess they could go back and undo their guilty plea. Since these guys, they could throw out the whole case because it's all based on fraudulent stuff, and you can't trust anything that came out of these people's mouths. And since they concocted this stupid, the United States government, okay, the Justice Department of Justice of the United States government, okay, which is managed, if you will, by Biden. It's the Biden Department of Justice looked over this Georgia case and said, we can't get this to, there's nothing to present to the grand jury. We can't get an indictment for this. Forget it. There's nothing here. Trump didn't do anything that he can be convicted of. He's allowed to look into what's going on in the state of Georgia with miscounting votes, so forth. Well, maybe that wasn't enough or material enough to change the outcome of the election. and the overall national election. Anyway, the Department of Justice looked over the same stuff that Fannie Willis, they figured, hey, if we can get this, then we can catch old Donald Trump. Then we'll be lawyers extraordinaire, and we can command all kinds of big legal fees, and we'd be on television, and whew, my God, it would take 10 years to get over such a trial, assuming we win, so forth. Well, she may be on the outside looking in while this case is likely going to get referred to a whole other jurisdiction. And that special prosecutor or district attorney could look at the case and say, there's no case here. And he could throw it out. He could just say, no, there's no prosecution here. Case dismissed. That's a possible outcome. That's the most favorable outcome, but I don't think it's nuts. The U.S. government decided not to prosecute this stupid case, but Fannie Willis picked it up because she has liberal judges, liberal lawyers, a liberal jury, if it ever got to a jury, if it ever got to trial. This case never, got to trial yet. Well, it's not going to. At least not under Fannie Willis. Now, this judge is up for election in 6 months. He's a new judge in the circuit. I'm not familiar with how the circuits are in Georgia. It's probably similar to everything else. I'm a little bit familiar with the Florida situation because I lived here for a long time. I've lived here basically ever since 1970. 1970. Oh, my God. That's when I was teaching high school math. How about that? Hey, Jimmy, teaching high school math. It's amazing. I was a math minor in college, not a math major, math minor. And it got, the math got a little so theoretical. And I don't know. I always try to, getting educated, you try to, like in college, In high school, I was your basic screw up like everybody else. I wasn't very academic in high school, I must say. Study? What? I do the book reports and this and that, at the last minute, you get the speed notes. I think my high school graduating class invented the speed notes, whatever they call it. We can go read a 12-page thing and it covers the whole book. 300 pages of boring stuff. Well, you can read the speed notes. Oh, boy. You pay $5 for the speed notes and you read through that, and even that you skim. You're so academic. Ugh, it's terrible. Now, I was a reading fool. I read every damn magazine published about science, rifles, guns, handguns, radios, taking apart radios and clocks. And, I was, really into figuring out how things worked, including the human body. I was that close to going to medical school. God. Ugh. Twice. My wife's parents, Dr. Hill. Nice. call him country doctor. Richmond, Virginia. Is that really country? But he had a nice, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia. He had a nice Virginia accent. He was president of the Virginia Bar Association. That's a pretty serious, title. He the Virginia Medical Association. I'm getting my disciplines mixed up here. So he was a country doctor. He had a practice, and he had all kinds of people in the office waiting for him, And of course, when we would show up, he'd stop and he'd take us into his private office and we'd be chatting, chatty alley with him. And so I was like between things, I was working for Kennedy and Cohen, and, the 1970s was like destroyed many major retail outfits, including the one I was working for. I mean, we had 850 employees in 5 different states. So with Les Byron, we used his private jet and flew all over the place. Oh boy. I was like Sky King in a twin-engine Sabreliner jet. I got a picture of me, somewhere with the jet in Minneapolis. A little chilly, so I had on my overcoat. I'm standing there on top of the, the thing with, trying to look like I belonged to get into that jet, which, I don't know. So, Fannie Willis, she's in trouble. Anyway, so Dr. Hill, who is president of the Virginia Medical Association, which that's a big deal, all the people, all the surgeons, all the, Dr. Hill was a thoracic surgeon. He'd be operating, he had all the tools. He had a drawer of old tools. I said, can I have some of these? Because they're nice stainless steel, like pliers and grabbers. And, So I picked out things that looked like they belonged in their, a regular toolbox. He said, yeah, take whatever you want. These are, I should really dispose of them somehow. Well, if you don't mind, can you dispose of them in my direction? He said, how about it? Sure, no problem. So we were talking about what I was going to do with the rest of my life. He said, I'll make you a deal. Really? What's that? And he says, how about this? I sit on the board of the Virginia Medical School. Computer, stop. Oh, gosh. Okay, my computer's talking to me. It thinks I asked a question. I didn't ask a question. Anyway, so I got an offer. I mean, it's not an offer. He volunteered, he said, Jimmy? Yeah, he's my son-in-law. Married to his daughter, He says, Jimmy, how about this? You want something to do? You're changing your life? You're really disconnected from what you were doing, which was very exciting, but it's over, right? Yeah. He said, how about this? I sit on the board of University of Virginia Medical School. So, give me your MCAT test, which I took and did well on, actually. He said, we may have to have you retake it because it's dated, so, 5 or 8 years ago. He said, but, if I can get them to take it, to accept that test. I said, well, Dr. Hill, I did really well on it, I'm told. real well on it because it had a lot of biochemistry, and I was, I really knew my biochemistry. I could pronounce all the words. I could spell all the words. And I knew all the reactions. I memorized all that stuff. And, 75% of the MCAT was biochemistry. So, I was like, I aced that sucker. And the biology part, I did okay on the biology part. I took a lot of biology to catch up. I was actually a chemistry major, and then I decided I liked this medicine idea. So I took a whole bunch of biology to catch up, with people that were majoring in biology. So he said, look, I'm on the board of the medical school. They either accept the MCAT test that you took, or you take it again. You'll have to prep for it because, it's been a while since you took it. I'm going to try to convince him to accept it as is because, it's not fair if you have to remember 6 years of a combined degree program. The MCAT test is taken right when you graduate. You take the GRE, I took it. You take the MCAT test, I took it. And, we have both those scores. You release them to us. Of course, Dr. Hill. And he said, so we'll get you in medical school. I'll finance you through the entire medical school thing. You won't have to come out of pocket at all because you don't really have any money to speak of. A little bit. Steele's a teacher, so she's got a teacher salary, and you can live off of that. And I'll take care of all the medical school expenses, and we'll get you in at a cheap rate because we're in the family here. And with the promise that when you graduate, I'm going to give you a full partnership in my medical practice, which I've been, operating for 30 years. I said, wow. I said, do you have any other partners? He says, no. You would be the first partner I've ever had. And I couldn't have a finer partner. He was such a gentleman. And I said, well, why don't we do that? So now, sitting here right now, a whole lot of years later, I can't imagine why I didn't do that. Why would you not do that? Was I afraid I wouldn't be able to make it in the... I would study my ass off. With Dr. Hill paying the bills, that's tantamount to a full scholarship, right? That's how you have to look at it. He's giving me a full scholarship and, the 4 years of medical school with the promise that he comes into his practice and he gives me half the practice. And he says, then when I retire, you get the whole thing. But you got to take care of all my patients. I said, he said, I'm looking after you because you're my son-in-law and you need something to do. And this would be something to do. This would be big time something to do. And I'll put you through medical school if you're willing to, work your butt off for 4 years and study and do all the things you got to do. If you get in trouble, you just call me because I'm on the board of the medical school. I can help you if you get in a jam, And how about that for a deal? Holy mackerel. So that's, and I, as I sit here thinking back on it, I can't imagine why I didn't do that. God. Then he had another idea. He said, I happen to also sit on the board of the, it was either the power company or I think it was the power company, Virginia Power or something like that. He said something with it. he's a very upstanding citizen. I mean, he could run for, he didn't run for anything. He didn't run for a political office. He had his medical practice, and he had all his patients coming in, and he'd check them out, and he was kind of like the last breed of country doctors, so to speak, in the middle of, Richmond, right in the middle of Virginia, which is, that's southern. He's definitely had a southern, thing. And I really appreciated Dr. William R. Hill, Bill Hill. He's a magnificent human being. I think he died of like prostate cancer or something like that. You figure these doctors would be able to, it's a long time ago, and they didn't have the medicine that they have today. The radiation and all the different ways they can shrink up tumors, and the chemotherapy is really advanced. I mean, they give you some of this chemotherapy, and it goes right after those cells, and no others, even though it's a poison, right? All these drugs are poisons. And the question is the benefit worth the risk of having the poison? I mean, anesthesia, oh my God. I had heart surgery, and oh my God. My biggest thing was, they cut your chest open, so that has to heal. The heart part, they did what they did, and it, bypass surgery, and it worked. All the grafts, of the new arteries, veins, whatever, worked. And so healing up the chest is a big deal. And, but, for the first 5 or 6 days, the anesthesia, it just poisoned my whole, my fingers were all swollen. I had a whole bunch of thumbs, all my fingers. Marilyn took a picture of us holding hands, that sweet thing sat next to me, sat in that chair next to me for every minute of the day. She could stand to it. She'd sleep in the chair. She went home to change clothing, and she'd come back, sit in the chair again, watch over me. Ah, boy, what an angel she is. And I've never been in a hospital before. So, and of course, whenever she had some kind of surgery, and she had a few of them before I was never in the hospital for anything. The only reason I ever went to the hospital was to see other people. Well, this time I was in there. Oh my God. They took care of me beautifully. No complaint there. I was a, you have your discomforts, and you pain, and they try to get, oh God, I have to get up. I think I'd rather just not go to the bathroom because to get up is like, oh crap. Oh, well, you got to move around all these, the ribs, and you got to move your whole body around. And you forget, oh crap, they opened you up like a freaking turkey. They have cranks. Oh God. And they don't make a big incision, so they stretch the skin to the point of popping, but your skin is very flexible, and they can really stretch it. Well, the problem with that is the skin gets so aggravated because it's been stretched and held open, while they're screwing around with your heart and your arteries, and they freeze the heart. Not like in a freezer, they chill it, but they call it freeze it, So they have this device that'll chill the heart to slow it down. But the bypass machine is still, cranking away, circulating blood through your system that's oxygenated, through, another method. So you got to keep the rest of the organs going. But we got to slow the heart down so it goes beat, beat. So that way they can work on these arteries, because they can't have the heart, doing this 60 times, once a second. They need to go. They got to slow it down. So they chill it to slow it down. And since the blood is circulating through another way with the bypass, and then when it's time to reconnect your heart, then they disconnect the bypass and get your heart circulating your own blood around. It's a pretty, that's another milestone marker, to get your heart, working again. That's the whole bypass. That's the whole reason for the bypass surgery, is so the heart can pump, blood, and then the circulation of the blood will feed itself, because the heart needs oxygenated blood to do the beating. So a couple of arteries that come down to feed the heart, because it's a heart muscle. So when something happens to those arteries, they get blocked, whatever, or they collapse, then the heart doesn't get oxygenated properly, and it can cramp. Like if you ever had a cramp in your shin down here in your lower leg, and that muscle just tightens up. Oh, and the pain is like excruciating pain. When you get a cramp in your leg, well, that's what happens to your heart. When and that circulation down here in your lower extremities, when that muscle cramps up, it's because it didn't get oxygenated properly. So you rub that to try to. My calves hurt just thinking about it. I mean, it's a drastic, thing. Anyway, so. Wow. Talking about my bypass surgery. Anyway, so I survived the anesthesia. It's a near-death experience when they do it to drop your vital signs down so they can do all this stuff, and you're not screaming, with pain until then they sew you all back up and they get you off the anesthesia, and you basically start to wake up, and they have you on a little bit of morphine, and and then they get you off that, and then they start giving you pain pills, Percocets, which I took 2 of those every 4 hours for the first 24 hours. And I said, I want to get myself weaned off of those, because I'll take as few of those as possible, and have. I was more concerned about the pain as far as sleeping at night, and it was just this whole chest part where they sewed you back. Oh God! But they, they had all this stuff attached into my arteries up here and my left shoulder, right in that soft spot between the collarbone. They had that opened up, and they had, the surgeons connected these IVs that get right into your circulatory system. Boy, they drop a load of some kind of medicine in that, and it gets in your body fast, as opposed to something in your arm or your leg. Well, when they get a certain point, then they yanked them all out. They said, "Okay, we're going to count to 3, and on 3, you're going to take a deep breath." And then, they rip that all out, and you go, "Yo!" That's how they disconnected all those IVs that were stuck on inside your chest when they had you opened up. They connected all those things right into the arteries. Phew. Well, the nurses used all those for the following week while you're recuperating. And they just give you your medicine right in those IVs. They had a little thing right here, and they'd have it taped so that they wouldn't get jiggling around. And they'd close up this little opening. I kind of forget how that. Everything else is so aggravating. I didn't really notice too much about that opening. I mean, just thinking about that all by itself, and you go say, "Holy crap!" Yeah. All right, what's going on here with the NACS, the North American Charging Standard? Here we go. See that down the bottom? Tesla's North American Charging Standard. That's the plug. And all the car manufacturers said, you know what? These guys have 20,000 charging places all over the United States, sprinkled all over the highways. Here's the Tesla plug, and here's everyone else's plug. Look at the size of that sucker. I mean, what? That's like something the gas station guy would have. No, we want something like that. So you got two main contactors right there for the DC, the AC or DC current. And then you have a couple of connectors here to connect into the car's system so that, like if you own a Tesla, the credit card information would just come right through the information you already have in the Tesla app on your phone. So when you go into a supercharger, and we go into a supercharger, and you plug in for 20 or 30 minutes, the bill goes directly to the debit card I have on file with Tesla. There's no swiping thing in the charging station itself. Now, since all the other car manufacturers don't have necessarily credit card information in your system in the car, I think the new Tesla stations will probably have a place where you can swipe your card or stick it in or something. They'll have something. And it will be, weatherproof and all that kind of stuff. But right now, Tesla chargers don't have that. They'll have to have another cabinet and more circuitry to deal with non-Tesla users of the Tesla charging. But all the major guys, Ford, GM, Toyota, Volkswagen, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, they've all agreed to have this socket. This is the plug, but to have that socket in their cars. There's the socket. See, look at the size of that sucker. What the hell is all that about? I mean, come on. This is what Tesla figured out. Yeah, you do that, you put that in there, and there you charge, You got these three little contacts to deal with the credit card information in the car and to manage, information that comes off the battery circuits to manage the amount of current that would go into the battery from. So here's the thing that gets built into the car on the right side. And this on the left side is the plug. This would go to the charger. That's sorry. Yeah. So this is the charger, and this is the chargee. This is what you got a rubber thing around there to weather seal it so you don't get, moisture inside the electronics of the car and disturb battery terminals and all that. So there's a rubber grommet, and that fits tight against the receptacle in the car. And then, it's got 4 bolts. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here's your 2 main contacts. And, this little array down here below to plug in to the system to get the credit card information from Tesla drivers. Now, if such information is available in other cars, their software would have to provide for noticing when a plug like this is plugged in to the thing on the right. Anyway, that is the North American charging standard. That's the plug, and that's the socket. Instead of this is the combined charging. Look at the size of that sucker. My God. This lady, it's a two-hander. Oh, God. Well, the engineers at Tesla came up with a very sound way of dealing with that. I mean, they thought it through. Come on. We want people to drive these cars. Let's not chase them off with this scary goddamn thing that's on this F-150. Well, for 2004 is like a transition year. This year, we're in 2024. 2024. In 2025 is when they officially just switch it over. So in this year, they're probably going to have two kinds of sockets inside this trap door. They got this big sucker, and then next to it is going to be this not so big sucker. So that if you stop at a supercharger, you plug that guy on the left into that guy on the right. The right side is what's built into the car, and the thing on the left is the plug that comes from the charger. You got the charge E and the charge OR. That's it. That's how it plugs right in, just like that. See, now Charge Point, they have, during this transition period, a Tesla car, this is the little light that's on a Tesla. I have one of those. And when this plugs in and it starts to pump juice into the battery, this thing whoa, this little green guy, it kind of pulses, with the juice. It's like it's noticing it's swallowing the fuel. So Charge Point during this transition period has two cords coming out of the charger. One for Tesla cars and one for everybody else. Now here's the thought of the Huber Schooner Radix charging plug. There you go. See, that's apparently another. That may be like a European, a German charging network. So here's the cable, and then this is what slips right in the Tesla port, right there. This is Charge Point's wire plugging right into the Tesla. You see, it's a nice compact thing. You don't need anything more than that. This will handle up to 1,000 volts. 100 amp service, 1,000 volts. It's a lot of power. Let's see. So here's the Tesla solution to charging a car, and here's everybody else. Look at that! Look at this. You got it superimposed. It's got a big handle on it. I mean, my God, look at the difference. That is the difference between the two plugs right there. And one nifty little Now, if you turn it around and you're looking straight at it, that's the Tesla plug, and then the wire rolling down behind it. And then there's the other one with all that stuff. Unnecessary bulk. As of mid-2023, two of the largest North American vehicle manufacturers, General Motors and Ford, and the largest all-electric car manufacturer, Tesla, with its 60% plus market share of the electric car segment, they are committed to the North American charging standard. This move caused an avalanche as everybody else joined in. All the other manufacturers I earlier mentioned, like Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes-Benz, BMW. It says as of July 26, 2023, 7 major electric car manufacturers all agreed. And under a new joint venture that hasn't been named yet of what they're going to call that, will operate at least 30,000 individual chargers. Now, Tesla has already got 20,000, I think, North American chargers. So that'll give you 50,000. Now that's 1/3 of what's available. There are 150,000 gas stations all over North America. 150,000. Now, eventually, 99% of them are going to be, electric. And there are a couple of gas stations that have pulled out gas pumps and put electric pumps, in their place as they transition to electric. All right, we lost X. My handle at X is the @ Jim W with a capital J and a capital W 5597. So we're going to end our broadcast with that, since X left us, and since I've been yakking here for an hour and 4 minutes and 27 seconds, as you can see over here. We might as well hang it up, and we'll speak to you either tomorrow or Monday. For sure, Monday morning. Bye-bye.